Senator McCain, Senator Obama says while the increased number of U.S. troops contributed to increased security in Iraq, he also credits the Sunni awakening and the Shiite government going after militias, and says that there might have been improved security even without the surge. What's your response to that?
I don't know how you respond to something that is such a false depiction of what actually happened. Colonel McFarland was contacted by one of the major Sunni sheikhs. Because of the surge, we were able to go out and protect that sheikh and others, and it began the Anbar awakening. I mean, that's just a matter of history.
I've heard recently from someone who visited Ramadi and Anbar in general is that there is a lot of Sunni insurgent and al-Qaeda violence between the two groups, but that the al-Qaeda side seems to be exacting a heavy toll.
With respect to the violence between the Sunnis and the al-Qaeda, actually I would disagree with the assessment that the al-Qaeda have the upper hand. That was true earlier this year when some of the sheikhs began to step forward and some of the insurgent groups began to fight against al-Qaeda. The insurgent groups, the nationalist groups, were pretty well beaten by al-Qaeda. This is a different phenomenon that's going on right now. I think that it's not so much the insurgent groups that are fighting al-Qaeda. It's the what used to be the fence sitters, the tribal leaders are stepping forward and cooperating with the Iraqi security forces against al-Qaeda. And it's had a very different result. I think al-Qaeda has been pushed up against the ropes by this. Now that the population and the tribal leaders are beginning to make common cause against al-Qaeda, the table is turned completely against al-Qaeda. And now it's the al-Qaeda forces that need to be worried about living in those neighborhoods. They stick out like a sore thumb. Everybody knows who the terrorists are.
For much of the past 4 years, Anbar has been a hotbed for insurgents and al-Qaeda terrorists. According to what al-Qaeda has made clear, their goal is to take over the Anbar province and make it their home base for Iraq. Al-Qaeda has pursued this goal through a ruthless campaign of violence, and they grew in power. They were succeeding. And then something began to change. The people of Anbar began to realize their life was not the paradise al-Qaeda promised. As a matter of fact, it was a nightmare. So courageous tribal sheikhs launched a movement called the Awakening and began cooperating with American and Iraqi forces. The sheikhs and their followers knew exactly who the terrorists were, and they began providing highly specific intelligence. To help capitalize on the opportunity, I sent more troops into Anbar province. Last September, Anbar was all over the news. It was held up as an example of America's failure in Iraq. A group of tribal sheikhs launched a movement called the Awakening and began cooperating with American and Iraqi forces. These sheikhs, these leaders, were tired of murder and tired of mayhem that al-Qaeda had brought to their towns and communities. They knew exactly who these folks were. To capitalize on the opportunity, I sent more Marines into Anbar.
And in Anbar province, by the way, I asked General Petraeus. He said the reason why we had the success in Anbar province is we had the extra 4,000 Marines to send there. It's astonishing the number of things that people come up with, but one of the latest statements is that the surge had nothing to do with Anbar province and the rather stunning success we've had there. How do you respond to that?
Well, the success in Anbar province correctly is a political success. The tribes indeed stood up, started outside Ramadi last October or so. Colonel McFarland of the Army with some great Marine forces and Army forces in Ramadi made the decision to back him. That began to build some momentum, got some Iraqis trained, and all of a sudden by mid-March, they felt that they could go ahead and launch a clearing operation.
Could it have happened without the surge?
It would not have happened as quickly without the surge.